All right, guys, this is a long overdue video. It's going to be a little bit lengthy, but a lot of you guys have been asking about this topic and writing in the comment sections all these different questions that I feel like I can better explain by visually showing you and break it down in a technical format that's easier for you to understand and that you'll get a better basis of knowledge as like where you need to be inside these two different worlds of stick shift racing. Two different worlds of stick shift racing is diaphragm clutch and adjustable clutch. All right, let's break it down. Okay, sitting before you are two different types of clutches. We have a diaphragm clutch that you use mainly in street applications and street car stuff. And then you have an adjustable clutch, which is used in a lot of high-end stick shift racing applications for drag racing. So I need to explain this one to show you how this one solves the shortcomings of the diaphragm clutch. So I'm going to break down the diaphragm clutch and show you its functionality as far as its characteristics and mannerisms. And then I'm going to show you how this one works. And so this will be a lot easier to understand. So I'm going to break down this diaphragm clutch first. So here we have a McLeod RXT 1200. This is probably one of the most popular drag racing clutches out there for stick shift applications, because it has a high clamp load. It is twin disc. It lasts quite a long time. This clutch was in a car, Zach's car, in 2020. It went 8s, and then we pulled it out of his car and then put it in my car, and then it put my car into the bottom 9s. It is now on its third year or fourth year, and so it is now starting to fade. You can see it in the 60 foot. What originally was going 1 2s and 3s is now getting it down to like 1 4s, and we just can't drive it any deeper. So the clutch is starting to fade. So it was time to pull it out and put something else in. All right, now that I have taken the stamp steel unit off, so here you have one pressure plate. As you can see, this pressure plate has a bunch of fingers on it. All these fingers represent a clamp load. So whenever you have a throwout bearing, which will be represented by this roll of tape, okay, it sits on top of this set of fingers. When you push the clutch down, okay, unless you're cable hydraulic anyways, but your clutch fork will push down on this throwout bearing and push down on these fingers, okay, which will fan out, and they will release the pressure off of that plate. So what does that do? Here you have disc, okay? Here's disc number 1. Going to remove this floater ring that sits in between the disc. This only applies to twin discs. A single disc does not have one of these. It's just a pressure plate and a flywheel with a disc in between. Good Lord. As you see, it's been worn pretty good. This is about 3.5 years of 60 foots and 8-9 second time slips. And here you have your second disc. Or technically this would be the first. So there are different sides. See, flywheel side, they do mark them. Okay. And here you have your flywheel. This is the flywheel. Okay, now it's a twin disc. Okay. So, how does this all work? Well, on this unit right here, whenever you throw out bearing, squeezes that, it's going to release the tension on this plate right here. So it's going to fan these fingers out or push them in, and it's going to fan them out. It releases the pressure. So what does that do? So for sake, we're going to pretend that this roll of tape here are these two discs. Okay. Whenever you got a flywheel, you got disc like so. And then you got the pressure plate that's on the front, okay, or the springs, okay? And whenever you go to push down the clutch, it's going to take the pressure off that front plate, which ends up putting slack in the middle, and now this disc or this set of discs can free spin. So when you go to dump the clutch, well, the springs are released and all that tension is applied. It clamps it. And now all that energy that the engine is providing is going to be transferring through a clamped disc, which is going to turn the input shaft on the transmission, turns the transmission drive shaft to the rear wheels. Okay, you get it. So this is a very basic, format of how to do it. But the thing is this is constant pressure. So there is no adjustability in this at all. This is just a couple discs, a flywheel, and a pressure plate. So whenever you go to push this on and off, it's just going to have 20, let's just say for sake that these fingers create about 2,500 pounds of pressure. I'm not saying that is what this is. I'm just using the round figure. Let's say this creates 2,500 pounds of pressure. So that's 2,500 pounds of pressure that is clamping on these discs. So, and that is applied with your foot. So when you push your foot down, it releases it. When you release your foot off the clutch, anyways, 2,500, like that. Okay? On, off. There is no in between. So how do you slip the clutch with a diaphragm clutch, okay, for launching on the start line? There's many ways of doing it. There are devices out there that can aid you in slipping of the clutch and make you more consistent. I'll show you one of them towards the end of this video. But a lot of people, the OG way of doing it is if you're sitting in the line and you light up your bulbs, a lot of guys, they'll add RPM and they slip it manually with their foot. Yeah, as they come out. It's very hard to do it that way because it's very inconsistent. So, and if you make a lot of power, okay, there's nothing you can add on a diaphragm clutch to add spring weight to it to clamp the disc even tighter. So if you make more power than what the clutch is rated for, it's going to slip all these discs. So where's the threshold of a diaphragm clutch? Well, really it's just a subjective statement, because there's a lot of clutches out there where they make different types of disc material. These are ceramic disc. They make a centered iron disc, which is really aggressive, really grabby, and as the clutch gets hotter, it tends to grip more. So there's a threshold there of, but once the material in the center iron is gone, then there is no more grip. So don't act like just because it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, it's just going to grip forever. It's going to eventually wear itself out. So that's what a lot of adjustable stuff is used for. So where's the threshold on one of these? I've seen clutches like this go low to mid eights. I think a couple guys have gotten some really high-end clamp loads and have gone deeper than that, but I don't think anybody's really gone to that 7-second mark. So if I had to put a number of where this clutch falls in line, I think this is going to be your 1,200 horse and lower clutch, and I'm being very gracious with the 1,200. I comfortably say about 1,000 is where you're going to be at as far as consistency and longevity for them. Okay. Really 850. I mean, that's about it. Depending on how much, it's really subjective, because how much does your car weigh? How much power does your car make? Okay, this is going to be the tall tale of how long your clutch is going to last, or if it will grip the power. Okay, so moving on. All right, sitting before you is a next gen adjustable clutch. A lot of people call these slipper clutches. I understand why, because that is the functionality of them, and the adjustability makes it easier for you to do such things to launch a stick shift car at a drag strip. But the actual name, adjustable clutch, long style clutch, but I understand y'all want to call it a slipper clutch. So here we go. So this is an adjustable clutch. It works a lot different than the diaphragm clutch that I got sitting over here. I'm going to break it down and show you how it works, and you'll be surprised by the time I get it apart. Oh, look. That looks simple. By comparison to the diaphragm, the one I showed you before, this looks pretty simple. It's got one disc, not two. Even though a lot of adjustable clutches, they will come with two discs. This one has one. This is a 10-inch next-gen clutch, okay? This material, centered iron disc, I think this is a 5135 disc. So it is it's the most aggressive compound that you can get, all right? So as you see here, there's a line here, okay? That represents this line right here. That is where it wears, and you can see how much material came off of it. It's just like that, okay? You can see the other line here that matches the inside of here. So I'm gonna do away with this for a minute. This is your pressure plate, okay? So as I explained before with the diaphragm clutch, okay, got your disc, flywheel, pressure plate, which is this, okay? All right, well, guess what? This one doesn't have any springs in the middle or little fingers. So how does it work? Well, it does have springs. It just has a different kind of spring. As you see, as I pull up on one of these arms, it's pushing against one of the springs, okay? These little arms are the game changer. This is what gives the adjustable clutch its functionality. Full disclosure, this one was coming apart. Nothing by them, okay? Nothing by the manufacturer. It's just, we push this clutch to the limit and it just comes apart. Happens, all right? So, as you can see, it was starting to, the little brackets were coming apart. See, we're missing one there. That one's got two and one. So, this one's going back to get rebuilt. Okay, how does this work and how do we adjust it? Well, let me get my flywheel back. Here's our flywheel, here's our disc, here's our hat. Well, all right, I'm gonna clamp all this back down and I'll show you how it works. All right, all back together. Now, when I did that, what happened? These drop down. Why do they drop down? Well, there's springs in here, okay? And what's the significance of these springs? Why they got a plus and why they got a minus? Well, when you get one of these clutches, you get one of these. Black Magic does not sponsor this vehicle or video in any way, or this vehicle. You have your base tool, you have a scale, and you got like a bunch of random hardware. Well, what's this random hardware for? Well, remember when we had this diaphragm clutch? I'm going to pull a hat over here. Remember when we had the diaphragm clutch and I said that this had about 2,500 pounds of pressure and that you would have to take this and squeeze all that pressure to release the pressure to clamp the disc, and then when you release it, all 2,500 coming in at once? Well, this clutch doesn't do it. Your throttle bearing sits right there. But when you set this up in your car, okay, some of these clutches come with a manual. This one's by Advanced Clutch, okay? They come with a manual. In the manual, that says they want 250 to 300 thou air gap. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, when you set one of these up, you don't want it resting on the fingers like you would a diaphragm clutch. You want it to have an air gap like so, okay? 250,000 air gap is a 1/4 inch. So let's just take that number. 1/4 inch. You want this to sit just off a 1/4 inch on the clutch in the state of rest. Your foot is not on it. Okay? Why do you want that? Well, that's what's going to happen. That gap is going to get closed when this starts going down the track. How? Well, let's start here. This is your base pressure tool. Just an Allen head, and you put them in here, and you turn it a certain way, okay, to add base pressure. So what is this doing? When I'm turning this, okay, and actually these are reversed. When I'm turning this, what I'm doing is I'm adding pressure on a spring. There are springs in here, 6 of them to be exact. You can probably see some of them down in here. They're sitting down in there, and I have 6. So as I said before, when you on the diaphragm, when you dump it and you get 2,500 pounds of pressure, let's say that for argument's sake, this, okay, one turn of one spring adds 15 pounds of pressure. 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, okay? That is 90 pounds all the way around. Okay, so, well, when I dump the clutch, I get 90 pounds just like that. That's base pressure. That's immediate pressure clamping on this disc. Well, 90 pounds isn't going to hold the disc or, frankly, hold the power. So it's just going to slip, 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 slip. So where does the rest of the pressure come from? Where's all the pounds? Well, that's what these babies do, okay? This is a 3-arm. A bunch of them are 6 arms, and they distribute weight a little bit more evenly, and you can run less weight on them. So when you get your little kit, you get a bolt, you get some washers, okay? You get a nut, okay? And you get a little scale, and what you're weighing, okay? You're weighing all this together, okay? And let's just say, for argument's sake, that's, like, 20 grams. That's 20 grams right there. That's 20 grams of weight. Now, 20 grams of weight, we take it, and we put a washer on, okay? We push it through this arm like so, and we take another washer, and we push it through this arm, okay? Then I'll drop this. Okay, and now we got 20 grams hanging on this end of this arm. So what is the significance of that? 20 grams as it's spinning, or let's just say grams, okay? Grams as they start spinning, and they get higher and higher in RPM. Now centrifugal motion starts happening, okay? And all G-force starts happening on the end of this arm. And now 20 grams doesn't weigh 20 grams no more. 20 grams weighs a lot of pounds. So the weight of the arm, the weight of the grams, and the grams is now leveraging on this arm. And it's pushed, it's fanning out. As the RPM goes up, these arms, they fan out. And they start pushing down on this disc. And what happens is they start pushing back on this, and these start lifting up. And now that air gap gets smaller and smaller between here. And eventually it'll contact this if you don't have it set right. So now, as RPM goes up, now weight starts being applied via grams and weights. Well, guess what? I go down the track, and it's still slipping. I don't have enough weight on it. So I go back in here, and I get more weight. And I start putting the same amount of weight on each one of these arms. Okay, until it gets tighter and tighter. Well, what's that got to do with the launch? All right, so let's say I turn each one of these 3 times. 270 pounds, okay? That's the collective weight or pressure in pounds, okay? I have clamping on this disc. When I dump the clutch, 270, like that. As RPM starts going up, these start to fan out. And now the disc is getting slowly clamped tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until it locks up. Now the RPM and weight and pressure is at high enough clamp load to where everything is 1-to-1. It spins with each other. So when you dump the clutch, 270, and now this is going 500,000, 2,000, 3, and so on and so forth. It's just, as RPM starts going up, it should get more as it starts leaving. So now all this starts coming into play. Click it, 2, 3, 4, and you go out the back. Well, so how do you adjust it? Well, or like how do you adjust for, like, if you knock the tires? Okay, let's just say it knocks the tires. Okay, I'll give you one better. Let's say it gets out like 30 feet and then it knocks the tire. Well, what that means is RPM was rising so fast, or RPM was rising so fast, and the weight was getting applied so fast that when it locked up the clutch and it went 1-to-1, the suspension couldn't take it, and it just knocks the tires. Well, what can you do to solve that? Well, 2 ways. You can take base pressure out of it, and it'll take a little bit out of it. Okay, but you don't want to take too much out of it, so because you can only go so low with this. So let's go over here and just let's take some washers off. Okay, go out here. take some washers off. Okay. Now as RPM rises, now the clamp load will be less because I've lost weight off of it. And so now it'll just, and now it'll end up being a smoother transition of power because it has less clamp load and gets out there. Now, this can hurt you. This can hurt you because if you take too much off of it and you go to click fourth and it's 1-to-1, you're going to want that extra weight because now it is the maximum load that it's going to have transferring through the drivetrain. So you got a 1-to-1 ratio. You got wheels that don't want to go anywhere and a lot of power coming in. So all that has to mesh up somewhere. So it could end up slipping later down the road. So it's a lot of finessing and a lot of trial and error to get it just right to where it'll leave and it'll end up going, or it'll end up holding the power. So that's how you do that. Base pressure, clamp. As RPM starts to rise, these start to fan out. It ends up applying pressure. Your clutch is locking up. 60 foot, 2, 3, 4, time slip, just like that. So now that you got a basic understanding of the 2 clutches, well, how do I know that I'm doing it right or I got the right adjustment or so on and so forth? Well, let's start with this one right here, okay? Let's start with that one. When you look at a log, okay, this is RPM. That's what you're looking at. This is RPM. This is a graph. So when you look at a data log, where's my pen? Where's my pen? I ain't got a pen! Okay, so when you look at it in a log, okay, you're looking at the RPM graph here, okay? You can get more technical with this by adding speed sensors and things, but I'm gonna show you in basic form of what it should look like in RPM. Idle, okay? We're in the box, okay? This is the tree. We're in the tree. We're lit up the bulbs. Foot to the floor. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We are in 2-step, okay? When I dump the clutch, okay, boom, base pressure applied, okay? It's going to flare because 200, like I said, 270 pounds, it's not going to hold it. But as it starts to flare, RPM rises, the weights start to clamp down because they're spinning faster. All that pressure's coming in, okay? And we get over here, and you start to see it curve over. What it's doing is curving over, and it's starting to lock up. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where it's 1-to-1, lock up. Now the ball is rolling. Now RPMs can start skyrocketing again. So here you got 2-step, flare, wow, slip, slip, slip. We're getting out there. And then it starts locking up, and then whew, we're gone. Come up here, you go 2, 3, 4, and you out. So that's how this works. Okay? How do we make this act like this? Well, if you do it with your foot, you can almost make it do something like this, okay? You can slip it way out there, okay? But the thing is, when you do it with your foot, you're very inconsistent. You can take the adjustable clutch and you can make adjustments and dump the clutch and it'll do it almost every single time and be more consistent. Well, assuming that your suspension is on par and that it works. Well, how do we make this happen? Well, there are devices out there, and many brands. You can do your own research, okay, that go out there and they delay the pedal release, so to speak, okay? If you had a hydraulic throwout bearing, there are bleeder valves out there, bleeder systems. There are several of them out there that you can do it. You could, why am I at a loss for words? You could delay the pedal release because it slows down the fluid and all that. So I will give you a sneak peek of one device. This is a prototype, so just bear with me. This is going in the S550 car. I have a fancy knob that's about to go on this, okay? This is going to S550 car. This is nothing more than a door shock. Okay, said car owner sent me this to modify and put on one of my rail systems. You will see something come out about this, so save all your questions. Okay, so what do we do? Okay, so what I have here is a slipper device of my own design where I can activate a solenoid and it holds it. So I activate this solenoid, it holds the clutch down, okay? Or, I'm sorry, it holds the shock down. This is a shock or a dampener, okay? And when I push the clutch down, well, it extends this out, okay? As you can see, it slips. I can spin this loose or tight. If I need to slip the clutch longer, I can make it do it longer. So, I take it on a diaphragm clutch, okay? Push the button, activate the solenoid, okay? Push the clutch down. We're extending the shock. So, what I can do is, I can come up to here, okay? On this threaded rod, okay? This is my base. This is base, okay? How do I want to do this? I want to set this to where if I dump the clutch, it's going to sling this up to the point where it is just now starting to bite. If I need more base, then I adjust it further back. I can loosen this up, twist it back, lock it down. Can't do this with one hand. Okay. And I can get it to bite into the clutch a little bit more. So, once again, okay. Extends it out. Okay, I can let go of the button, and this is going to retract, and so you can free kick it the rest of the gears. So what I'm going to do is dump the clutch, base. So being that this can't go no more, where's the rest of the slip come from? There you go. And that's how that works. So we'll just put it first gear to mock it up. Push the button, hold it, push the clutch down, release the button. All right, light up your bulbs, two-step, dump the clutch. Slip, 2, 3, 4, with no interference. So, what does it look like on the graph? On this. You saw that? Well, on my car, with my device, this is what it looks like. It looks pretty close and similar, doesn't it? It's not as nice of a graph as this is, because this is optimal. This is what you're looking for. You want the RPMs to go up, up, and up, and as it locks up as it's going. Well, it's hard to get a diaphragm to do it, but this is what I've been able to achieve. In the beams, okay, 3,500 on a two-step, okay, just using this example. Okay, we're on the two-step. I dump the clutch, zing, okay, it flares. Why did it flare? Base pressure. It only comes up so far. It only lets the pedal go up so far to the point of bite. Okay? And now, where's this go? Right here. Okay? Point of bite. Okay? Base pressure. And then we are slipping it. That's where that's coming in. Okay? So, once it gets to a certain point, well, the power is, what it's doing is it's flaring it to 5,000 RPM, and it's slipping and slipping, and it's just 5,000, and it's coming down. What it's doing, as the clutch is locking up, it's pulling the motor down to here, and now we're going back up again. So I'll insert a clip, that way you can hear it. It sounds like this. Heard how it was, as soon as I dumped the clutch, the RPMs went all the way up, and then it started to level off, and then it dipped a little bit for lockup, and then it started going back up again. That's how all this is at. This is how I was able to achieve making a diaphragm clutch act like a adjustable clutch. Okay, I'm not going to get it just as perfect, but devices like this are to bridge the two worlds. Okay, now. Here comes the answers that y'all are all looking for. Which one do I need? Well, it's subjective. There's no definite answer, but I can break it down into a simple term that'll help you make a better decision. I've seen 9-second guys run these. I've seen 8-second guys run these, okay? If you are faster than 850, I recommend this, okay? You will fight this a lot more than this, trying to go faster than 850, okay? Not saying this can't, but you have to really have your program together to make one of these things work, okay? That's the simple term I can give you. I would actually say that 890 to 880 is going to be about the threshold that you need to make the transition into one of these. Okay. Now, here's the part that people don't understand. Okay. When you run one of these, okay, when you run an adjustable, you really can't run a synchronized transmission efficiently because it's going to fight it. You got a clutch that's trying to push against, basically trying to push against the throttle bearing because these are fanning out. And then you're going to have to like really mash on the pedal to get it because you're trying to make these arms go this way. They're trying to come this way. So it's a little bit of a fighting balance. So usually what happens is if you run a synchronized transmission on one of these, you almost always have to wait on the RPMs to fall in order to get the pressures off of these to click the next gear. I've seen people fight it and try to get around it. Somebody has gone, I think Vlad with the Supra, actually did it at World Cup. He went 7s with a synchronized transmission and an adjustable clutch, okay? That dude has his program together. He found out some secret magic and whatnot. And so I'm not saying, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you that most of y'all aren't a Vlad, so you're going to fight this. So what do people have to usually do when they, so how do you combat this? Well, most people usually have to go to a faceplate transmission. This is the sticker shock here. Okay. One of these. You can run a synchronized transmission with one of these. This clutch is about $1,400 for a New Edge or a Fox body. It's a little bit more for newer platforms. Okay. This one right here, this clutch right here is anywhere from $2,300 to $2,500 depending on application. And this is just an entry level. This is a single disc entry level. There's a twin disc in teal right now. So most people have to run a faceplate transmission to get these to work as efficiently as possible, meaning that you don't have to wait on the RPMs to fall. You just click that gear and go. So, and what does a faceplate transmission cost? Well, it depends on who you go with and what kind of transmission. Teal's got a dog box transmission. It's a 4-speed. There is no overdrive. So it ends up being, you know, it's like $5,500 to $6,500. If you do get a T56, like a really, really nice one, okay, an entry-level one, you're going to look at about $7,000, $8,000, and then you start getting into the $10,000 to $12,000 range for a transmission. So $2,500 plus $7,000 entry-level, okay, just to get the faceplate gears and whatnot. So, or just the faceplate transmission and whatnot. So this is the sticker shock of this program right here is going to be right at about 10 grand. I'm just going to call it 10 grand. 10 grand to make this happen, okay? This one you can run with any of them, but I'm going to go tell you that some transmissions out there, synchronized transmissions out there, are made of glass, and that this will be a lot more grabby and whatnot. But that's why we try to innovate products to mend stuff like that and get this to act like that. How do you initially set one of these up right here? Well, there's no definite way. I'd say talk to somebody who's run one before. In a program that's similar to yours. I would base it off of car weight, gear ratios, and things like that. So I would basically all it is seat time. To get one of these to set right, seat time. It might take you 5, 6, 7, 8 passes to get it right. Trust me, they're very robust clutches. You will get it eventually. So we've been through a bunch of passes with Teal, trying to figure out what is the optimal setting to get it to run right, and we think we got it down pat. So, but this new clutch, we're going to have to do the same thing. We got some good insights from some friends, and we're going to give it a whirl and see how it does. Like I said, it's just read your logs, find out what, read your logs, make adjustments. You can make adjustments in the tune. You can make adjustments on the clutch, and to get it all to jive and work. So, how much horsepower does this hold? About 1,200 is what I say comfortably, but you will fight it at that point. So I'd say 1,000 comfortably, and 1,200 at the max is what I would recommend with this. You could probably push it a little bit further. There are companies that put centered iron disc in these, but it's pretty much an on-off switch. There is no in between. So how much power does this one hold? Well, I don't know about this particular clutch in general, but an adjustable with like 6 arms, guys have been, 2,500, 3,000 horse, on a setup like on clutches like these. There's a lot of companies out there that make different styles of them. They make twins, triples. They make a big single. This is a 10-inch. We could go to an 11-inch and be fine on one of these, but that's pretty much how it works. So I hope I answered a bunch of these questions. If I need to make a follow-up video on some different tech on one of these, I will, because I love stick shift racing. That's what we're here for, and we're here to help you guys out. There will be a video coming out. This is a 1.0 version, okay? So I know it's ugly. This is a handmade version. I have fancier knobs and other things that are going to be going on this, and then this is all CNC and stuff. This will come out. This will be hitting the market soon for the average guy at a very affordable price, and it's so stupid simple to set one of these up. So, but guys, I appreciate y'all's time watching. If I have missed something, just let me know. I do not personally run an adjustable clutch. I run a diaphragm clutch. So, but I understand the basics of how this is supposed to work. And so there are guys out there that are way smarter than me on these, and I would have probably asked one of them guys. So, because I understand it quite a bit, but it's just I don't have any experience with them. I just know how they operate, how they work, and how to spitball certain settings, to throw it out there and try to get something to stick. But yeah, just reach out to guys if you're making the transition from a diaphragm to an adjustable clutch program. Just reach out to guys, see what they did, talk with them. Some guys are nice and they give up their secrets. Some of them aren't. If they aren't, then just move on to the next guy. That's all I can say. It's a very tedious program as far as trying to get your settings right and to adjust for extra power, things like that. It's a lot of trial and error. I'm gonna tell you, take notes. One thing I will say about the adjustable clutch, it is a lot more high maintenance as far as adjustability, because you have to, as the disc wears, the fingers will start to get closer and closer to the throwout bearing, and so the air gap changes. So you will have to monitor that after so many passes, whether it be 8 or 10 passes. You have to go in there with a feeler gauge or some sort of spacer, pre-made spacer that the measurement on, and then stick them in there and try to figure out what the air gap is on them. So if the fingers don't have anywhere to fan out and go, and it starts pushing against the throwout bearing, you're losing pressure. So as soon as you click that gear, the fingers want to go, but the throwout bearing's saying no. So there's no more pressure, and it'll end up slipping. So I would advise you to pay attention to the adjustments that you make. Write them all down. Make a log. Make a mental note. Measure this, because you will forget it after track outing after track outing. I appreciate you guys watching. Y'all got any more questions? Y'all know, drop them in the comments. I'll try to get them answered or make another video about it. So without further ado, get out there, kick some ass, bang some gears, put the Model Boys on the trailer.